didn't hear from him for 3 months. So I assumed the tumor was too aggressive and too far gone. And then I saw him, and he walked into the store, and he he ran up to me and gave me a big bear hug and started crying. And he said, "It's gone. The cancer's gone." And he said, "I want to thank you, but more importantly, my wife and kids want to thank you. They get to keep their dad."
Geoff, it was so amazing to have you and Vanessa come up to Hogs and Kisses Farm Sanctuary, to be a part of that, to be able to share that with you guys, because it's something I feel like I go up there and nobody from my life down here in South Florida gets to really experience that with me. And so it just felt really, really good to have you guys come up, to have Sean there, to be able to have these, really amazing conversations together. Thank you again for coming up, for being our speaker, for sharing that with me.
Oh, no, my pleasure. I should be thanking you. I mean, that was such a recharge of the batteries, a reconnection to the natural world. It's, with the big creatures in the world, I mean, those pigs are ginormous. And it's amazing. They're so gentle, but so big at the same time. And just to get really close to them and connect them and feel that energy. Wow, we need to get more people to have that experience, because I think when they do, I was just listening to a podcast of Dr. Emil. Did you hear that one? Okay,
no.
He's a plant-based doctor from UK, and he listened to the Jarofsky thing and was like, wow, and that really changed him. He goes, but what really changed me is I went to, my wife had become vegan, and she asked me to go to a sanctuary with her. And when I got there and I so connected with the animals, I said, that's it. It's done. It's one thing knowing it, but when you experience it firsthand, when you feel the energy, it just becomes undeniable. I think the separation that we experience in modern life, that we're so detached from the experience of eating the animal, I think that just really leaves way too much room for objectification and distance and the speciesism that we see so prevalent, especially with males. But I don't want to. I know we got a whole conversation.
We'll get to that. But I think this is good, and as an introduction, really, to this theme that I want to have for today, which is unification. And we talked a lot about that while we were at the sanctuary, and what you're saying, that connection. And so I want to dive deep into all of that today. I think for our listeners, I'm going to put the link for our first interview from the Vegan Life Coach podcast in the show notes. And I'm going to encourage everybody who's listening to go ahead and go over there and also listen to that, because we spent quite a bit of time on your personal journey, which is, I mean, really your episode, I mean, I'm going to say it, is probably one of maybe my favorite episode of all 100 episodes of the Vegan Life Coach podcast, because it was so powerful and so inspiring. And I just had perma chills the whole time we were talking, and for a long time after. And I know our listeners did too. So I want everybody to go listen to that. But if you could start by just kind of, I don't know if you can do it in a nutshell, but kind of start with your story a little bit before we go into the rest, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. And I guess it starts as a good reference point, because, I hear people when they look at me and say, oh, you're a bodybuilder, that's for vanity, or, oh, you sell supplements, you're all about just making money. And I'm like, wow, if you just took an opportunity to get to know me, you would know how far from the truth that really is. Watching Star Trek, and I see them living beyond a monetary society, and I'm like, oh my God, if we could all just rise to our best because it's what we're passionate about, what we love, and what we do well, what an amazing world we would be living in, not doing things we have to, that we're reluctant to do, that we feel resistant to. Imagine if we were all running at 100% investment in what it is we are contributing to society, how much further along our society could be right now. But I feel so grateful that people like you and I have actually created not only a lifestyle, but being able to make a living so that we not have to worry about, to a large extent, immediate needs of food, shelter, clothing, that sort of thing, whereas so much of the world does have that as their prima force, the main directive. But okay, so it started out, in a nutshell, I went through an extraordinary transition. I had lost my father to alcohol. My mother was diagnosed with terminal illness, and I lost my brother to mental illness. So my entire family was crumbling apart. Now, I caution to say this, but I was raised in a high IQ family, and it has a double-edged sword. One, yeah, there's benefits in society for being having a high IQ, but there's also a degree of separation that comes with it, where things that may interest you aren't going to be interesting to an average person or to the other people, and so when my nuclear family just fell apart or died or was lost in a matter of just a few years, that support blanket, that connection where I could lean on to talk about the deeper ideas and deeper feelings and not be criticized, not be made fun of, not be shunned or ostracized, that left me in a very scary place. Losing my father figure and then having to go right in, 3 days before my 18th birthday, 6 months before graduating from high school and going into the work world, the college world, without someone. And my dad was brilliant, genius IQ, professor at the university level, extraordinary Renaissance man, played 14 instruments, was an actor, playwright, storyteller, artist, painter, photographer. I mean, it was just brilliant. And to have that, to go from that to nothing, right when I'm entering into a world that is based on taking, is based on, competition and not collaboration or cooperation. It was a rough transition for me. And I fell into a very dark place of depression. Drugs, alcohol, did it all. And it wasn't changing. So I attempted to take my life on 2 occasions, the last one ending up in a coma for 3 days. So, but I knew I had to turn something around or it was over for me. I wasn't interested in carrying on. And fortunately, I found someone who did help me through a breakthrough that was so profound. I can't, words do not give it justice. The experience itself literally felt like my old self walked out of my body and I was renewed with a whole new perspective on life. And I was so grateful for that I said, that's it. I am dedicating the rest of my life to finding ways to reduce suffering in others. And of course, in my meditation that evening, the very first thing that my higher voice said to me was, don't harm the animals. And that's it. And so I quit drinking, quit smoking, quit doing all drugs, and quit eating all animal products that day, that moment, and dedicated the rest of my life to helping others do the same. That's how powerful it is for me. And it's been such a joyous path to be able to do it. Not an easy path, especially back in 1985. I didn't even know there was a word vegan back then. So we didn't have the books, we didn't have the movies, there was no internet yet, it was nothing, no social media, no support whatsoever. I did not know a single other person that was vegan. So that was a long path, but I was, people say, oh, you're committed to this path. And I'm like, no, it was so absolute. It's not commit. It's not, it's not trying. There was no try. That was it. This is me, and there's a difference.
Totally. And I think, I'm guessing listeners are going to want to know, and again, you guys are going to need to go back and listen to the interview. But, one thing that comes up for me is that you've told this story how many times, Geoff? I mean, hundreds, I'm sure. When you tell it, and that means you keep revisiting it, how have you gained new insights about that and what happened over the years, and what, how is that journey for you, just continuing to grow and then see what happened from a new place? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does. I just started writing a book with a friend of mine who's a published writer, and he's helping me with the book. And in that, I've been sharing the stories. And of course, for him to get a good understanding of how to help me write the book, we had to go deep. And yes, it was like the most intense therapy session all over again. And in so many ways, it was almost more intense, because in living it, I see the last 38 years of my life and how I've applied those lessons, those changes. And that just makes me even more grateful. I mean, it's like, when people lose someone they love, the intensity of the pain they're feeling is the intensity of the love and connection that they have with that person or animal. And when I look back at that experience and relive it through retelling it, there's a whole lifetime of almost 4 decades in there of how I've tried to apply that to the best of my ability and what I've learned along the way. And that's just, that gives me even more awe. It makes me even more inspired to keep going, to see the progress and to see the change over that period of time, from creating a successful brand to finding a partner like Vanessa, to having a circle of friends like yourself and so many of the other amazing people in this movement right now that are doing incredible things. The path, the journey, the experiences, wow. And to live it from that perspective of inclusiveness, of compassion, of that coming together, that reconnection. Wow. It just seems even bigger than it was back then, because I didn't know what was to come. I had no idea. Like, I knew I was changed, but I didn't know how I was going to apply that in life. Now I see all the omaze, and I see the way the world is actually changing in that way too as well. And I feel part of something bigger. It's not me in a little crusade out to change the world. There's an undercurrent, a vibration that is exploding throughout this world, and it's amplifying and it's growing and it's touching so many people that I'm honored to be a part of it, to play my role, to be in there fanning the flames of this passion that is catching fire in the world right now. I don't need to be a singular voice. It's not me against the world anymore. It's me with the people that are waking up and that are reconnecting and that are feeling the vitality of what really living life feels like.
So true. And it's interesting, Geoff, for some time I kind of moved away. I mean, you know me, I've been an animal advocate since I was 7. And there was a time, really at the beginning of my Sexy Fit Vegan years, where I kind of moved away from the movement in general, because I was just feeling a lot of negativity around it. And now in the last year, 2, 3, maybe, I am feeling something different, something very more positive and uplifting, and this elevation and the elevation of consciousness. And connecting with you has been, one of the most positive things. And I feel like that might have been part of the catalyst for helping me open the door to seeing that and feeling that in the movement as a whole. Have you seen the movement, because you've been in it for so long, take waves? Is that really what's happening? Or was that the bubble I was in? Or, do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, and Einstein had a famous quote that the greatest minds have always met with the strongest resistance. Ideas of change are usually heralded, but at the same time resisted with great force, because a lot of people don't want to change. Change is scary for a lot of people. It's uncertain. And when change is being demanded or forced upon you, like we are in a requirement with the climate change at the place it is now, with forest fires breaking out all over the world, with the oceans at 98 degrees, robbing it of oxygen and having trillions of fish die off immediately, it's basically being asphyxiated because the water temperature can't support the oxygen. I mean, we're catastrophic period right now. It's not, oh, it could happen or it may happen. No, it's happening now. We are at a critical turning point for humankind. And we have the opportunity, probably the greatest opportunity for humankind to change course than ever before. And there's never been a time more important. And we can be a part of that change. Or we can be the ones resisting that change. The choice is ours. But I see the people that are resisting, and I see the struggle that they are going through. So I am looking at that with a different perspective. There was a time when I, would say, here, this can help you because here's the studies that show that causes cancer, and you don't have to suffer from cancer. You can make it. And getting violent resistance. I mean, ignorant and just totally, obnoxious untruths, resistant to science, resistant to everything, just to maintain their place, that status quo. I'm not going to change and you're not going to make me. Great study in Australia, 1,000 people, 1,000 men they asked, and 73% of the men they asked said they would rather give up 10 years of their life than stop eating meat.
Wow.
If we don't value the sanctity of life itself more than a hamburger, what are we talking about here? Life is definitely more precious than the taste buds of a burger on your tongue. That just makes no sense whatsoever, but it's not logical. And I have to keep reminding myself of that because I am a logical person and it makes no logical sense on any level. The diet for health, for environment, for the animals, for compassion, for connectivity, for survival. It doesn't make sense on any level to eat animal products. None. But when I see that, I see it's an emotional resistance. I don't want to change. I don't want to feel wrong. No one wants to feel wrong. And, don't blame me, or we get into these identity politics. I am this person. I am this person. And if somebody says, well, no, you're not a carnivore, you're an herbivore, then that just sets up things. Even when we scientifically know for a fact that we are herbivores. Physiologically, we are herbivores. There's no denying it. The only way you can deny it is just to completely deny the science and our own physiology altogether. But then, I was even on the plane, getting on the plane, coming back from the amazing time. Thank you so much for having me up onto the farm. And I was wearing a vegan shirt, of course, and I sat down, a woman across, the thing says, oh, I can never be vegan. And I said, well, you can be vegan. You choose not to be vegan. She goes, no. It's, you need meat to eat. And I'm like, okay, well, the science says, and she cut me off and she goes, I don't believe in science. I don't think there is any fact. And I'm like, wow. Living in a mental world where there is no fact. It's all opinion. But that's where we've come to. And I think social media and the political situation has really driven our mindsets into you are what you believe. That's not reality. That's mass psychosis. I know, I've lived with two psychotic brothers. They did the same thing. They believed the reality was reality, and it's not. And people don't see that. And I apologize, I don't mean to call anybody with a different opinion psychotic. That's not what I'm saying. Let me clarify. It's that when we deny the facts, the real science, that we are in a place, just ask yourself, based on this, look at the research and ask yourself, does this make sense on any level? Now, be sure to ask yourself, am I resisting this because I don't want it to be true? That's where we need to start the conversation. I'm not out to change anybody. I'm out to help people, and people aren't seeing the difference of that right now.
Yeah. And then one of the things we were talking about at the sanctuary was how to unify and changing the narrative. And I thought it was so brilliant what you talked about in terms of changing the narration from vegan versus meat eater to the general public versus indoctrination by institutions. How to talk about that, and how do we get everybody on board that, right? Like,
yes,
we can say it from our side, but here I go with our side, right? But yes, how do we do this?
Yeah, and so I think we need to get back to accepting that they're. So when I hear people, defending their dietary pattern, they'll say, "Well, this is right for me," right? And they'll say, "Well, I'm, X amount of years of age and I'm healthy," or "My grandfather lived to 90 and eating meat every day." And I'm like, yes, but imagine what his life could have been like had he given his cells optimal health. Yeah, he did make it before you died. But if you're setting death as the bar for health and existence of your life, that's a low bar. Just this Dr. Greger video on telomere length, and he's showing that, yes, somebody can be the exact same chronological age, live to 90, chronologically same age, their cells be 20 to 30 years different in cellular aging. That means the cells aren't functioning properly. They are misfiring. They are not healthy. You can live to 90 and die and think, oh, I lived a healthy life doing what I did. No, you lived an unhealthy life all the way to 90. And thank God your cells were working overtime to try to combat that. We're a self-healing machine. Now, you can work against it and your body will still perform miracles in keeping you alive, even when you throw crap in it all the time. That's a testament to your body's ability to adapt to what the negative things you're doing to it. Imagine if you're actually working with your body, giving it what it needs to not only survive, but to live optimally. That's the huge difference. When I changed to a plant-based diet, my health improved on so many levels, but some of the levels were intangibles, like my sensitivity increased, my sense of smell, my sense of eyesight, my sense of taste, all dramatically increased and changed. When you go on a whole food plant-based diet, your cells adapt and start performing optimally, to the point where I would go out to dinner and have something and I would like, whoa, I can't even eat that. Where before I was so desensitized by having regular bad food, I didn't even notice the difference. You don't notice the change until you've actually lived a whole food plant-based diet with optimal nutrition. Then you will know the difference. It was like when I was drinking. I went out to a bar and would go drinking and dancing. I love dancing, freeing the spirit in one way or another. And I got on the dance floor the day after I stopped drinking, and it felt so weird. I could feel everything. I wasn't numb, And that's what food does. It numbs the body. It decreases our body's sensitivity. Now, I get that. I get why I did it. I think we need to address that foundational piece in people, that we're all trying to numb ourselves because the world we're living in isn't very pleasant. The experience we're having isn't pleasant. So it's hard to say, I was at a raw food festival and people were saying, well, how can we get more people to eat raw foods? And I said, raw foods extends life. And they're like, yeah, I know. That's why more people. I said, most people are trying to slowly kill themselves. When you have a fire, you try to put out the fire. When you're feeling pain, you try to stop the pain. And whether we know it or not, subconsciously, if you are in pain, you will do everything in your power, including shorten your own life, to shorten the amount of pain that you have to endure. And I think that's the subconscious message we're sending to ourselves. Why, especially there are so many men out there shortening their life, even saying in an interview, I'd rather have 10 years left of my life, because they're not valuing life because it's not that great of an experience. Or that they're in pain, emotional pain, psychological pain that they're trying to ignore, that they're not seeing, and that they don't want to. Why would anybody want to sensitize their life if they're in pain? That would increase the amount of pain. Why would anybody want to live longer if a life was painful? No, you don't want that to go longer. You want it to go shorter. So I think there are two really approaches: trying to communicate to somebody why the advantages of to that, but showing them instead, showing them not just that there are advantages, because there are advantages that subconsciously may not register with them, that that's the path they're on. And I think we need to start here. If we don't fix this part, the rest won't come in line. And when I had that emotional breakthrough and clarity, a moment of forgiveness, all of the rest of those bad habits just dropped off like ashes off my body. And I think we're approaching the situation wrong. We're trying to tell people why this is good without understanding their path. And if we can show people that life can be good, then there may be a potential. And that's why I think food and nutrition and exercise can be so, because it can give people a glimpse of what health feels like. And then they might say, hey, wait a minute, that feels a lot better than where I was at. I don't feel as depressed. I don't feel as anxious. We now know, we have science that shows exercise decreases anxiety by 30 to 40% in people, just on 20 minutes a day. I mean, this is a huge impact on our psychological health. If we can show people a little glimpse and show that this change that we're talking about is for them, But if you've never seen or felt what that positive experience is like, or it's been 20, 30 years of your life where you've been entrenched in a job you don't like, a relationship that's not great, a situation at home that is not good, you feel trapped. You feel like there is no escape. And of course you're going to resist, because status quo is better. At least you know what the familiar bad experience is, rather than bringing on something that you may not have an answer for, may not have adjusted or adapted to. I too totally understand the reasons for resistance. But I want to be an example to show people there is something better on the other side, and that they can move through it. And that people like yourself and myself are here to help you walk that path in a way and not feel alone. And there's so many more people out there now who are being examples. And I think that's going to make it more easy for people to say, I want what they've got. I'm tired of this experience that I'm at right now. I want something better. I'm going to give it a shot, because they're doing it and they're doing all right. 39 years vegan. If something was broken with that prospect, I'd surely be experiencing it by now. It's 60 years of not being the best shape of my life.
I'd love for us to dive a little deeper into the considerations when it comes to men in particular and masculinity. And thank you for being the example that you are, for being able to talk, from a very vulnerable space about your experiences, your emotions. These are things that are really toxic in the, for men in general. And one of the things that happened this year was we had our second ever 100% vegan bodybuilding competition, you guys. This came along with the Vegan Health and Fitness Expo this time. I was honored to be a judge for the second time, and just seeing these insanely fit and built vegan competitors up on stage was so inspiring. How are you reaching men with this message? How do you see that climate changing? Is it changing? And talk about that.
Yeah, so I've approached it from so many different angles over the last almost 4 decades because it's heartbreaking to me. Men have been conditioned in a society with certain norms, just like women have, certain body types, certain ways of being in relationships. Both of them, I think, are prisons for men and women, and we need to bust out of those stereotypes to feel our whole self, our real experience of not being the masculine stereotype that everybody thinks they're supposed to live by, but to be a real man, to feel what it is to be a man and live free, not of the dictations of our society, but of who you really are, a thinking, feeling, real, honest, caring human being. That should be the definition of a male or female in this world, not these cockamamie, skewed up things that were, by and large, mostly fear marketing techniques created by the meat and dairy industry to get you to eat more of their products. It's marketing, it's advertising, and they've got us duped. It's a lie. It's simply a tool, a psychological tool, just like, oh, don't go outside with your deodorant or you'll smell bad and you'll turn off the person that you're trying to attract. It's fear marketing. Oh my God. Oh, if you don't eat meat, you won't be masculine. You won't get strong. You won't build muscle. Come on, guys. I'm 60 years of age, 17-inch arms. Are you freaking kidding me? It's a lie. You've been lied to, and they've got you in a constant state of fear. Mm-hmm. Be a real man. Step out of the fear. Stop cowering to the manipulation tactics of the marketers out there. It's a lie. It's garbage, and it's killing us. Guys are so embedded with this meat is masculinity myth that they're eating the very foods that actually take away their masculinity. From every step in the process, it's giving them heart attacks. It's causing dementia. Cholesterol. Let's touch on cholesterol for a second because it's so important to this concept. Cholesterol is only found in significant amounts in animal foods: meat, dairy, eggs, fish, all of it. Anything that animal produces cholesterol, just like we do. We're an animal. We produce our own cholesterol. We require 0 external cholesterol. Okay. As a matter of fact, when we do consume cholesterol, it can cause plaquing of the arteries. And not just the arteries going to the heart, but also to the brain. Alzheimer's. I have pictures of included arteries of Alzheimer's patients. It's all saturated fat and cholesterol. Only comes from animal products. You can get a little saturated fat from plants, but not in significant enough quantities to cause this to happen. So a researcher said, all right, we've known this for 100 years. 1809, when it was first discovered that cholesterol causes atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis will be the cause of death, disease death, for 50% of Americans. 50% of Americans will die from atherosclerosis caused by consuming animal cholesterol. And it's not just animal cholesterol. If it were just the cholesterol, that would be one thing, like carnivores. Carnivores don't get atherosclerosis. When I hear people say it's impossible, you can feed a carnivore, any carnivore animal, even true omnivore animals don't get atherosclerosis. Only herbivores get atherosclerosis. Well, we get it, and it's the #1 killer of human beings in the world globally. So they said, okay, well, if that's the case, well, then humans have to be herbivores, because carnivores and omnivores, true omnivores, don't and can't get, no matter how much saturated fat and cholesterol you feed them all day long, they will never develop it. Their thyroid produces a different enzyme. Our thyroid, just like every other herbivore, does not produce that enzyme, and that's what causes cholesterol plaquing in the arteries. So they said, well, if that's the case, well, then all humans should have atherosclerosis. So they did these autopsies, over 1,000 people, right? And they looked at the autopsies, and they said, well, we want to look at younger people too. So you can't go and kill people, but you can look at autopsies where they died from suicides or, early heart attacks or car accidents, et cetera. So they looked at all these autopsies, and they found atherosclerosis in 100% of the human beings that they looked at. Every single of the over 1,000, I think it was actually over 3,000 people that they looked at, 100% of the humans had atherosclerotic lesions by the age of 15. They found it even as soon as 9 years of age, already atherosclerotic plaques beginning to form. 9 years old. Because they're eating animal products, because they're eating oxidized cholesterol, cooked animal products. 100%. I mean, it's just not arguable anymore. Heme iron is the other major thing that we know why we know we're herbivores. Heme iron does not and cannot give cancer to a true omnivore or a carnivore. It's impossible, it doesn't happen. Heme iron is created by our own body. So our body thinks it must be made by us. Heme iron is free iron, and it's not bound to an antioxidant like plant iron is. So heme iron, which is found in blood, so it's in all things, fish to any animal flesh, right? Heme iron goes in and oxidizes in our digestive tract. One, it goes so fast into our bloodstream because our body thinks, oh, I must have made that because that's the only place it would be. So it pulls it into the bloodstream thinking it must have accidentally got into the digestive tract. And that's why heme iron absorbs so fast. But it absorbs so much that the liver says, oh, that's too much, and has to stop it. The liver produces a thing called hepcidin to block heme iron from getting into the. So all this heme iron starts to build up on the digestive tract, and it forms N-nitrosamines. These are carcinogenic compounds. We know the exact pathway that heme iron found in all animal flesh, fish, poultry, chicken, beef, lamb, all of it. We know the exact pathways of which it causes cancer. We know that. It's not arguable. It does cause cancer. Not may, not sometimes. No, it does. And we know that heme iron is only found in animal products. It's zero in plant products. Well, the plant products actually have a phytate molecule called phytic acid, or IP6. So researchers recently found, well, what happens when our body actually breaks off that so that we can use the plant? That phytic acid actually can protect cells from cancer. So it's anti-cancer agent. And then it actually does something more cool, which it goes inside and actually can turn an oncogene off. So it can take a cancer cell, go inside and correct the DNA and turn that cancer cell back into a normal, healthy cancer cell. Yes, we spend over $1 trillion on cancer research trying to stop cancer by killing it, which is something phytic acid in plants does all day long, but something no drug on this planet can do, a plant's beans and greens can do all day long, which is turn a cancer cell back into a healthy, normal cell. So you have the two options. You eat animal iron and it causes cancer, known carcinogen. You eat plant iron and it can turn that cancer cell back into a healthy cell. I mean, which should we be eating? It's so clear. and that heme iron does not cause cancer. Cholesterol does not cause cardiovascular disease, and those are the top two killers of Americans. We know human beings are herbivores. There is no physiological argument against it, period. Let's
It's so
get on
clear.
with this already. No, I thought this would be enough, right? And people are
Right.
still in denial. Like, oh my God, what is wrong with people?
But people do not know this of what you're saying. Now, here's my question. And I was just recently at the Organic Produce Summit speaking, which was a fabulous experience. There are all these organic farmers who are very far from even being on the realm of plant-based. And we're there thanking them for feeding us, because we're saying, what you grow is all we eat, right? So thank you. Thank you for feeding us. Your food is medicine. And they're really not thinking of it like that, right? And we've got these insanely talented marketing agencies, marketing milk, marketing meat. There are these, organizations that farmers pay into so that it can be marketed. We do not see any advertisements for broccoli. We do not see any promotions for kale on our TVs and our streaming services. So there's something missing here, right? Like, this is so one-sided. How do we market? I mean, I'm just asking you because this is coming into my head right now, because if everyone knew this information, I know there's podcasts and there's all these, but into the mainstream, we need some heavy hitters marketing this stuff. Ooh, shoot.
I couldn't
Right?
agree. I couldn't agree more.
Ah.
And look, and it's not about, I was with Maxime Seguin, who's an amazing human being who lost his fiance to cancer, and has dedicated his life to helping others. It's not about, I'm not trying to change you because I want to be on the winning team, like vegans against meat eaters. It's not that at all. Let's please get beyond this politics and see that this is, let's do the right thing. There is universal truths. There's physiological truths. It's not all opinion, really. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's killing us. And I'm like, do you realize that arguing against me does not serve you? It's not me you're arguing against. You're arguing against physiology. And to say, oh, my body is doing well on meat and eggs. No, it's not. That's a lie you're telling yourself. And it's not my opinion. We know that. It's not opinion anymore.
And then it goes back to what you were saying before, Geoff, about people not really caring about their own lives, not finding joy in their life, not finding pleasure, not really caring about living long, healthy lives. So if we go back to that, because it goes in a circle, right? And we're like, well, of course, like, here's the answers. It's fact. And how do we help people get to a place where they want to live, where they want to connect with other people, with themselves, with animals, with nature? I mean, nobody really has an experience out in nature and comes back more hateful, right? It's and nobody comes to our sanctuary and connects with these amazing creatures and leaves feeling worse, So then we get back to the kind of more esoteric, like, so where do we spend our energy? I mean, you've got such a wealth. I'm sure we only have so many hours in a day, at least in this, in this matrix that we're living in time and space. We only have so many hours. So, one huge thing that you're doing is providing people with this information through your, YouTube, through your Facebook lives, through your writing, through your speaking, and providing supplementation through your clean machine company. Is it hard for you to kind of balance all that? You've got so much wisdom, so much knowledge, and so much ability to help people. How do you combine that all? And how do you, when people are saying, oh, this is just a bodybuilding guy, like you said, maybe your book, I think I'm so glad you're writing a book. Like, that makes me really happy, because your story needs to be out there, and we need to get you on like Rich Roll. That's We need to have a petition. We should start a petition to get you on. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a really great question. And of course, over 38 years, I wish I had the answer to that. But I think the answer is unique to the individual. And I really have to remind myself when I'm talking, because I know so much about the research and the physiology, and because I've immersed it, and I've come from a place where I found my truth from a soulful experience, a heart smashing experience, a heart opening experience. And in that connection, you see the perfection, you see the beauty, you see how nature is in this amazing harmony. When I was a kid, the very first thing I'd do is put down my books and either get out on the lake in the canoe or go hiking in the woods, because there the world made sense. Plants grew where the sun was, and they grew towards the sun because that's what fed them. The mushrooms grew in the soil, and they communicated to the plants and helped the plants out with their nutrition. The bacteria was there, the caterpillars were there shedding that, and they had this connection to it. You see this web of life just coming together so harmoniously, so cooperatively, so beautifully. It's powerful. And human beings can be like that if we so choose. We've gotten too reliant on this organ and not enough on this one, and we're way out of balance. Our mind is an extraordinary thing. I mean, in college, I was a biopsych major, looking at how our total body physiology influenced our thoughts, our mind, our behavior, our moods. Because I saw the connection. I said, no, it's not just brain chemistry. We're not just a brain walking around with a couple of arms and legs stuck on it. No, we're much more than that. And our thoughts change as we change from inside. When you have a strong feeling, when you have a breakthrough moment, your whole line of thinking can change. When I had that moment where everything changed for me, my worldview just went 360. It was like, wow, I went from seeing the world as a place I didn't want to be to a place where this is exactly where I want to be, where I can be the most help. Mm-hmm. But it was coming from a place of wanting to be service to others. I used to read books about Siddhartha and these great spiritual teachers, Jesus, and how they were all service to others, right? Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, they lived their whole life in service to others. And we herald them as the great leaders, the people we all follow, the people we all admire. Yet we're all living in service to self. And I'm like, have we missed out on that experience? And I see these teachers trying to convey, hey, wait, service to others can be more rewarding than service to self. Service to others connects you. Who doesn't want to be connected with somebody who's being of service to others? That's the kind of people I want to hang out with. That's the people I want to gravitate towards. They have something to give, not something they want to take from me. So why don't we behave that way? Why don't we behave like all the masters that we all looked up to and called gods and great thinkers and great people? Why don't we behave more like that? You can do that in the workplace. I mean, we just started doing these bars, impact bars, because we want to make an impact. Every person who buys one of these bars gets a tree planted in their name. Every person that buys one of these bars, for every single bar, an animal is taken care of on an animal sanctuary. And for every single bar, a child is fed a pure vegan meal. This is a partnership with Food for Life Global. This is the give backs that we are doing together, is we are helping feeding. We fed over 10,000 hungry children throughout the world, whether it be hurricanes or floods or war or famine. we're helping children, we're giving back. That's what the opportunity of business can do. You can, in giving to others, have it reward yourself and have it continue to help other people. And that can snowball. I love living in service to others. It is so rewarding. I was at in one of the stores, one of the supplement stores, and a guy came in and he had always asked me, and we built up a trusting relationship. And he goes, Geoff, you always just tell me what's right for me, but you show me all the different options so that I can choose for myself in an empowered way. And he goes, I love that. You don't try to sell me anything. And I said, no, I'm here to help you. And so he said, well, I have kidney cancer, and it's grapefruit size tumor. And they not only want to take out the kidney, they want to remove both kidneys. So I'll be on dialysis for the rest of my life. And they gave me about 6 years to live. I said, I have 2 young children. I want to be there for them. I said, I've just been reading this research about IP6, which I just mentioned, that they had actually condensed into a supplement that for use in this particular thing. And I didn't hear from him for 3 months. So I assumed the tumor was too aggressive and too far gone. And then I saw him, and he walked into the store, and he he ran up to me and gave me a big bear hug and started crying. And he said, it's gone. The cancer's gone. And he said, I want to thank you, but more importantly, my wife and kids want to thank you. They get to keep their dad. That's the power of plants. That's what I want to share with people. It's not about trying to make you change to what you don't want to change to. It's about, I really care about suffering. I suffered greatly with clinical suicidal depression. It almost took my life. I don't want to see anybody else suffer. I don't want to see the animals suffer, and I don't like seeing the world suffer the way it is with this climate change. And it's all related. It's all the same suffering. Our own personal suffering with cancer is because of the animals, eating animals and not plants. Our own suffering for the animals is clearly eating the animals to the tune of 80 billion plus. It's so connected. And if we just get reconnected to that, it's an empowering experience. It's an experience that you can really feel great about every day. That's what I want for you. I don't want you to change so I'm right and you're wrong. I want you to change so you live, not have to suffer, and feel great about your choices, because I want to see you smile. That makes me smile. I mean, if you told me that I would not have that experience because I didn't want to find out about plants and their power, that I didn't find out about that IP6 research, I wouldn't have shared it with that guy, and he'd be dead, and his children would be without their father, just like I lost my father right before my 18th birthday. I don't want that for anyone. And we really need to get past this idea that, it's us against them. It's not. It's us against ignorance. It really is. I don't want the ignorance, these false beliefs, to cause you suffering. It's that simple. And I'll keep saying the message, and I'll keep doing it, and some will listen and some won't, and that's okay. It's part of the process. I trust the process. I won't change. It doesn't deter me. It is what I do. It's who I am, and I'll keep doing it. I'll keep for the rest of my life, period.
I have no doubt. And every time you talk, Geoff, every time, and you talk about this for your living, for the world, and you are equally as passionate every single time, because it comes from a place so deep down, and it comes from your inner light just pours out of you every time you talk, because you're so full of integrity. And I thank you. Thank you for doing what you do, for sharing, for being here today. Geoff, you're amazing. Thank you.
Oh, likewise. Thank you for giving me the space to do so. You know, I think we need to create more space for each other to share, because that's where the healing begins. And when we are healed, we will make changes. The changes will come naturally. When you feel the power of healing, when you work with your body, when you use these plants and their amazing healing capabilities to help you, you can be a more powerful help to the ones you love. You can be a better example to your wife, your children, your husband, your partner, all the people that you care about. You can be a better influence when you start to let the healing begin. So thank you for creating a space for healing to happen. It's so important.
So my pleasure. We'll talk again soon, Geoff.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey.